Donald Trump held a rally and sat down for an interview to mark his first 100 days in office. And you know what? He changed my mind. Before the interview, I thought the first 100 days had been really bad. But after the interview, I thought, oh, I see the plan. The next 100 days are going to make the first 100 days look amazing. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. You know, when Donald Trump first took office, I was pumped because I was promised a new golden age of America.
The golden age of America begins right now. The golden age of America has only just begun.
The golden age of America, it's coming now. You feel it now. Finally, someone is behind the desk in the Oval Office who's going to protect America and the world. And it's coming now. And I tell you what, it feels great.
Is he talking about the economy or writing erotica? Next time you're at the airport bookstore, look for a copy of 50 Shades of Lutnick. That sounded like he was doing a commercial for IBS medication. Are you tired of being bloated and backed up? I used to go days without having a movement. But then I started taking Golden Age, the only medication that stimulates bowel contractions to promote a healthy flow. Oh, I can feel it coming. And it feels great. So we were promised a golden age. Just because I turned doesn't mean you're allowed to clap. Oh, well, they did use the second camera. We're here on a good night. So we were promised a golden age, but then we scratched that golden surface, and guys, it turns out someone just used golden spray paint on a big old turd.
A key report showing the economy shrank during the first 3 months of the year. The GDP declined at an annualized rate of 0.3%.
The economy contracting for the first quarter, raising some recession fears.
This is how the Dow is reacting, down almost 700 points.
Rising inflation and a shrinking U.S. economy.
U.S. consumer confidence plunged in April to the lowest level since May of 2020. 69% of adults, more than 2/3, say that a recession is likely in the next year.
Comments that Larry Fink of BlackRock made a little earlier. He said that most CEOs he talks to think the U.S. is in a recession.
Another J.P. Morgan paper over the weekend had a headline, "There will be blood." Doesn't sound good.
Bookings of container shipments from China to the U.S. are down nearly 50% compared to a year ago.
These shipping containers are not coming from China, or they're coming empty.
Inventory on hand right now in the United States will last for about 6 to 8 weeks. After that, shelves will be bare.
Shelves will be bare. Oh my God, last time he was president, we had COVID, and this time, he's the COVID. We were too reliant on China for COVID, so this time we're doing it on our own. We're gonna clear the shelves all by ourselves. Now, I'm no expert on the economy. I use my Econ 101 textbook in college as a surface for rolling joints because it had that little ridge that you could push all the seeds into. That's right, Gen Z. Weed used to have seeds in it. Oh, but your life's so hard. But my guess is that GDP falling, inflation rising, consumer confidence plummeting, recession fears soaring, and imports grinding to a halt are all bad, right? In fact, I unrolled one of my joints to read that chapter from Econ 101, and it said, yeah, it's really bad. Things are so crazy, even news anchors can't believe what they're seeing.
We do have breaking news. GDP numbers, basically economic growth for the first quarter of this year. Our first chance to get a glimpse of how the Trump economic agenda is affecting the economy. And if I'm reading them correctly, GDP came in at minus 0.3%, which would be the first quarterly contraction, I believe, since 2022. Am I reading this correctly? Down 0.3% in the first quarter?
Yeah, you are. That's the numbers that we have coming in here, John.
It's very sweet that the news anchors are acting so surprised, but come on. We all knew Trump was bad with money. He bankrupted casinos, lost $1 billion, and he dresses like a guy selling watches in a dark alley. Also, everyone said what Trump was doing would be bad for the economy, and now it's bad for the economy. Acting shocked by it would be like an ESPN anchor saying, the Mets decided to start a team of Little Leaguers from Massapequa against the Dodgers tonight, and am I reading this correctly? They're down 1,011 to nothing in the bottom of the first? We've seen recessions before, but we haven't seen this specific confluence of factors, rising prices, negative growth, in a long time. And what makes it so much worse is that just a few months ago, we had an economy that was considered the strongest in the world.
Experts have been calling the U.S. economy, these are not partisan folks, these are just people that analyze this stuff for a living, calling the U.S. economy the envy of the world. It's grown at a far faster rate than any other large developed economy on Earth. In fact, the World Bank last month not only said that the Biden-era American economy was the world's strongest, which it is, it also concluded that the entire global economy is in better shape because of the strength of the American recovery. New government data showed that inflation was cooling beyond almost all economists' expectations. Prices on everything from cars to groceries are down. Overall prices are down last month on a month-to-month basis, not rising at a slower clip, but actually declining. A study highlighted by the New York Times concluded that America's so-called left-behind counties, the once great manufacturing centers and other distressed places that struggled mightily at the start of the century, have staged a remarkable comeback. The job markets are strong. Wages are up in real terms. And today, markets rally, with all three major stock indexes closing near their all-time highs.
Well, thank God we put a stop to that. Who cares about the economy? Trump's doing the important stuff anyway, like renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. Not that anyone could afford new maps with these tariffs. Went to my local map store the other day in Atlas. He's the guy who runs the place, and trust me, he's heard the jokes. Said new maps are $3,000 a piece, to which I said, for that much money, I'll just use my phone. To which he said, please, no, you're my last customer who hasn't figured that out. So the economy was roaring when Biden was president. Unfortunately, no one believed him because Biden was only capable of describing how good it was using John Wayne movies not everyone had seen. Yeah, the American economy, I'm telling you, it's like the movie Rio Bravo, big hit. Great film starring the Duke. Other countries, their economies are like the movie Rio Lobo. That's a different movie. Also stars John, same director. It's not as good. I was saying, hey, you guys get it now, right? But there was at least one person who definitely knew how good the economy was under Biden, someone who even wanted credit for how good it was going, and that person was Donald Trump.
The Biden team can say, well, if things are so bad, how come the stock market's on a roll?
Because they think I'm going to be elected.
That you think the stock market's rallying because people think you're going to be elected?
Yeah.
Trump posted earlier today, let me put it up on the screen. This is the Trump stock market because my polls against Biden are so good that investors are projecting that I will win, and that will drive the market up.
I think the stock market's going up because I'm leading Biden in all of the polls. I think there will be a crash if I don't win.
Well, thankfully, we didn't have to choose, and we got both. So Trump wanted credit for the strong economy when Biden was president, but what about now that Trump is president and the economy is crashing? Who gets the blame? Quick, everyone in the audience, use the remotes under your seats and vote for who you think Trump will blame. And the votes are in, and yep, everybody guessed Biden.
Core GDP, and this is, you probably saw some numbers today. And I have to start off by saying that's Biden. That's not Trump, because we came in on January, this is the quarterly numbers, and we came in and I was very against everything that Biden was doing in terms of the economy.
Oh, okay, so I get it now. When the economy was good under Biden, it was because of you, but when the economy is bad under you, it's because of Biden. You know, Harry Truman had a sign on his desk in the Oval Office that said, "The buck stops here," which let people know the value of taking responsibility. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump had one that said, "Get that buck away from me. I've never seen that buck before in my life." That's Biden's buck. At that same cabinet meeting, Elon Musk, who has said he'll be stepping away to focus on his struggling electric car business, Tesla, showed up with a weird fashion choice.
Elon, I love the double hat, by the way. He's the only one that can do that. Get away with it.
Well, Mr. President, they say I wear a lot of hats. It's true. Even my hat has a hat.
Oh my God, my least favorite thing, a hat on a hat. You know, it's bad enough this dork showed up wearing two hats and then said, people say I wear a lot of hats. But even then he had to add, even my hat has a hat. Like there was a single person on earth who didn't already get the joke. Maybe Doge should cut your punchlines in half. The Point is, when Trump took office, our economy was the envy of the world, and Trump single-handedly obliterated it. One man took the economy in his hands and crushed it for no coherent reason whatsoever. In fact, thanks to Trump's policies, we are now staring down the prospect of rising prices and possibly even barren shelves, and his team is basically just shrugging and hoping for the best.
Are you worried about empty shelves? Because they say that a lot of these, the supply lines and the cargo ships are being held up. A lot of people are saying, turn it around with the tariffs this high. I don't want the product. Are you worried about empty shelves?
Not at present. We have some great retailers. I assume they pre-ordered. I think we'll see some elasticities. I think we'll see replacements. And then we will see how quickly the Chinese want to de-escalate.
You assume the retailers pre-ordered? Can I assume my man has never been to a Dwayne Reed? That is day-to-day in the best of times, my friend. Now, you might be thinking, why would China de-escalate if our shelves are empty? That makes no sense. Well, Trump has a rebuttal, sort of. Although, as usual, it's impossible to sift through his incoherent word soup.
They're coming from all over the world to see your president. They want to make a deal. They want to make a deal. And you know, we'll make deals, but we don't have to. We are the ones that have the product. We are the ones at the United States. They want a piece of our product. We can just set the price, but I want to be respectful and I want to be nice. But if it takes too long, I'll just set a price. Say, you could buy or you don't have to buy.
Buy what? What are they buying? And what is the price? And who is they? You're a little light on details, bud. I feel like I just walked into one of those fancy upstate antique stores with a generic name like Appleseed, where it's impossible to tell what's for sale and how much anything costs. Hey, is there a price tag on this antique bird feeder? Is there? You tell me. Well, what about this chair? Oh, that's just for sitting. Well, can I buy it? Actually, it buys you. What do you sell here? It's actually just a front for a meth lab. You want some crystal? They mostly are antique stores. Allegedly. Of course, the reality is the opposite. We are the ones who will pay the cost of tariffs, not the exporting countries. Plus, there's a bunch of stuff we can't replace here, like coffee or mangoes.
99% of coffee is imported. So unless we're going to ramp up Hawaiian coffee production, your cup of coffee every morning, you're going to face a price hit on that.
The 10% tariff is not going to change virtually any price. The only price it would change would be a product that we don't make here, like a mango.
Okay, first of all, that's totally unfair. We do make mango here in America. It's just the one we make, you can't have a. What? 2025, right. Okay, I always forget. I always forget what year it is until a joke like that doesn't work. But it's more than mangoes. There's so much more stuff we import, especially from China, like clothing and electronics, and the tariff on China is not 10%, it's 145%. Trump is just hoping wrongly that China will have to endure the pain of the tariffs, not us.
145% tariffs on China, and that is basically an embargo.
They deserve it.
It'll raise prices on everything from electronics to clothing to building houses.
You don't know that. You don't know whether or not China's going to eat it.
That's mathematics.
China probably will eat those tariffs.
Love how fast he shifts from you don't know that to probably. Also, as we've explained over and over again, China will not eat those tariffs. We will eat them. Literally, we're going to have to eat tariffs because we won't be able to afford the mangoes. Donald Trump single-handedly took the world's strongest economy and broke it. It's that simple. Now, the economy is shrinking, prices are rising, eventually shelves will be empty. And when you go to the grocery store to buy produce, they're going to say,
you can't have the mango.
Oh, it works when he does it. Oh, no. This has been a closer look